So Chris, thanks for joining us at Investment Leaders Forum. We're seeing the world change, strategic rivalry, hard power, new industrial policies. Where are you seeing the most compelling opportunities in small caps?
Yeah, what's interesting right now is there is a lot of change. So with there's a lot of change, you want certainty when you're deploying capital. Even in liquid markets, you're looking out 2 or 3 years. And so we look for where there's either been underinvestment where that's going to have to turn, which ironically, even prior to the situation in Iran, was really investments in fossil fuels. So energy writ large around the globe has been underinvested in, and that's an area we've been deploying capital really for the last 9 months. And then also within power generation and electrical infrastructure, even without the investment in AI data centers, there still was a big pent-up demand for just kind of rebuilding grids, increasing durability, and as well as increasing generating capacity.
For the advisors that are watching this, they might have some legacy positions and some assets that have done really well.
Yes.
One of your theses is that there is disruption all around us. Which business models do you think, Chris, are most, they've got an incumbency, but they're most threatened?
Look, I think everybody's been surprised at the sell-off in the software space. And it's an area we've avoided for a long time, and not really because of any pending disruption, just because of valuations and what we saw as kind of a lot of the software vendors or data providers were pretty aggressive with their price increases, and we just weren't sure how sustainable that is. Now what we're seeing is technology is going back to what it always did, which it disrupted itself. So the incumbents and the winners are now going to be challenged. You're going to see Microsoft a little more challenged even in their core business. And so software is still an area we're shying away from, even with the sell-off we've seen. And quite frankly, we'd argue they're not even cheap yet. So even from a valuation standpoint, we wouldn't be interested there.
Now, risk and reward is in every asset class, particularly maybe in small caps. But to understand you, I think risk management, protecting capital is at the core of what you're trying to do.
Yep.
For the advisors that are thinking about that with their clients, what messages do you have?
Look, the most important thing you can do right now, because I always like to describe the markets as when you see a price move higher, the market loves to develop a story around it, a narrative around it, and they believe that becomes a fundamental truth. And you really need to focus on where investments are made, what that return on capital is, and whether it was just plentiful liquidity and cheap funding that was really driving the business. And so I really encourage managers and advisors today to look at the fundamentals and get away from the narratives. You're going to see a lot of the narratives go away, and when they go away, you're left with the fundamentals of that company.
As you saw, we had this amazing community of leaders across wealth, but also, asset consulting, asset management. Across your career, Chris, what's the best piece of leadership idea that you've heard or that you've even developed yourself?
Look, I think it's a privilege to be in this business, right? We really are. And I think just in general, the way you live your life, you have to do it as a steward. None of us, I've never seen a hearse with a U-Haul. We're not taking any of this with us. And so with that, you've got to work hard on the behalf of your clients. You got to focus on truth, transparency, accountability, and be humble. And then, as you know, I'm a little more gray-headed now. As I start thinking about the twilight, I've got to turn around and create opportunities for the people behind me. I owe that because the people ahead of me did the same.
It's a beautiful thought. And thank you for all of your ideas this week, Chris.
Thank you.